In a few words, more than 50 ministers, 600 and more representatives of some 100 countries were here in Fortaleza, not by chance. Fortaleza is an important, the capital of an important region in this country where education makes the difference, as you all know. And the discussion was about challenges that we still face in education. We released here yesterday the Global Monitoring Report, which is the picture of the state of the art of education globally. And we see there is some progress in terms of the right to education, 110 million children more in school globally since 2015. But inequalities are very much huge. 33% of schools, of children are out of schools in the global south, against 3% in the north and in the rich countries. So we are here to address these challenges. The outcome of these 2 intense days where ministers share their experiences, their solutions, their problems as well, is the Fortaleza Declaration. In a few minutes, Minister Santana, we are going together to ask all the participants to endorse the Fortaleza Declaration. And the Fortaleza Declaration is an important global commitment on 2 important issues. Number 1, putting equity and inclusion at the core of policies, any policies in education. And this is very much the vision of the G20 presidency under the leadership of Brazil, as you know. And this is what you actually did as governor of this region, if I'm not mistaken, Minister Santana. And it's what UNESCO promotes. Education as a human right, not negotiable human right. And the second point is to increase finance for education, having new mechanism, having also a renegotiation of the debt swap for countries in developing countries, which are still facing many challenges and they don't have enough resources to invest in education. And the Fortaleza Declaration will contribute for sure to prioritize education in 2 weeks in Rio de Janeiro, where the summit of the leaders, President Lula will chair this meeting, will happen. And our Director General will also attend this meeting and will bring, among other issues, this outcome from this important conference. So I take the opportunity to thank Brazil, to thank Minister Santana, because it's not obvious that the G20 takes the leadership on an important issue like education and addressing poverty, hunger, all the inequalities that the world still faces through renewed commitment to education. Thank you.
Ministro, por favor.
Bom dia, boa tarde a todos e a todas. Queria cumprimentar a diretora da Educação da UNESCO, Stefania. Já de antemão, Stefania, parabenizá-la pela organização desse encontro. Em nome de toda a equipe, os organizadores, pela primeira vez, é bom ressaltar que pela primeira vez, desde a criação do GEM, é a primeira vez que esse encontro ocorre no Sul Global, no Hemisfério Sul. Portanto, para nós, tem um significado muito importante.
But it's very meaningful to us. Half of the countries that are part of the UNESCO organization They are present here at this meeting, showing this representativeness of the delegations from the whole world, to discuss a theme that is fundamental for the sustainable development of the planet. Because we have this worldwide commitment, we have the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 4, equity for all children in the planet. As Stefania said, there is an inequality in between the global south and the north and the global north. Even with so many countries that are developed, we still have 250 million children out of school. So the discussion is of these 2 days that were subsequent to G20, where we saw many ministers from G20 these 3 days in Fortaleza. Fortaleza became the capital of education in the world. We're so proud of that. We wanted to discuss how to ensure inclusion, equity for everybody, so that everybody has the rights for education in this planet or on this planet, how to ensure financing. We still have some sub-financing in some countries in our planet. Some of them are indebted. They can't have enough revenue to invest in education. How to amplify that. That's why this group and this meeting is so important. And after that, we're going to approve the Fortaleza Declaration, which is going to be taken to world leaders in from the G20 in Rio the next weeks, so that we can have this commitment for public education with great quality. So we had the visit of many ministers coming to a school from Ceará. We came the world to Fortaleza, to Ceará, the education world, so that we could see how a full-time school, professional school happens here. They talked in English to the children there. They exchanged experiences with them, the children from Fortaleza, and they they saw that they have the main program, so that without food, without quality food, we cannot offer quality education. So they could have food there to see how we do it in Brazil, to guarantee this quality food to help children to learn. Penai has this this experience. We have been taking this experience to other countries. So I'd like to just say that I'm so happy. I'm happy to receive these delegates from so many countries. And as you know, journalists, you're here. I had the privilege of being the governor of this state at one point. We have focused too much on education. Not only me, but the governor before me and the governor now that came after me. And he helped me to receive this invitation to take this experience from Ceará to the federal government to advance this learning in all Brazil, to guarantee inclusiveness, to improve technical education, professional education, to guarantee full-time schools. I'd like to say, Stefania, now that Brazil has the greatest program of professional and technical education, 1 million new enrollments this year, 2024, the greatest in history in Brazil. We want to have 1 million again next year. I had the opportunity to talk to several ministers from Italy, from Spain, the importance that they have the full-time school there as a model for their school. It's a project of life for the student to stimulate at the second period culture, sport. Brazil, the best policy, not just educational, but to be preventive against bad security. We would have to have full-time schools so that we could have better security and safety. So we want to value the teachers, the graduation, the quality of the formation and training of teachers. People that don't want to be teachers anymore, we have to stimulate these people. I talked to the Finnish ministry, it's the opposite. There everybody wants to be, like, people want to be teachers, they have the recognition of society, and so this has been some great talk we've had. So I want to say, Stefania, it's been an honor to receive you, all of you here in Ceará, and even more to me because I am from here, I am from Ceará, I am a former governor. We have to build, we can build a sustainable, a human and fair world. There's no other way. It is education for everybody, for the youth. So thank you all. Congratulations for the ones who were in JAM. Thank you for the press for covering it. It's been great to have you all here in Ceará. Thank you.
Pessoal,
People,
agora a gente vai abrir para
now we're gonna open for questions. We have a limited time, so please be objective.
Peguem a mão, a gente
You
leva
can
o
raise your hand and we're gonna take the microphone to you. Your name, your company. Good afternoon, Camilo. Good afternoon, Stefania. Warlimi from Ceará TV. I want to talk to you both. I want to ask you a question. We wanted to understand how you saw the meeting, because until 2006, we had a problem of equity in our education. After Camilo Santana's government, we transformed education in our state to be national reference. What do you take from here, Stefania, from UNESCO? What do you learn from Ceará? What do you take from here to convey to other nations? And now Camilo, Minister, how does that work? How does that meeting help education here? This is a national thought. What can we bring from other nations and to Brazil, especially to Ceará? Pode pôr.
And I would say that the Vice President, Geraldo Almir, opening this meeting 2 days ago, told us an important thing. Politics is about making a choice. It's about deciding and choose where you have to focus and to invest. And what I learned from Fortaleza, from the model of Fortaleza, is that when there is a clear political commitment, the will to transform a society, we can do. And I think that implementing a transformation and the reform of the education system based on inclusion and based on equity made a lot the difference in this region and this city. So I think that having Fortaleza as the global capital of education for 2 days means that we give this sign and we bring this message clearly to the entire world ministers, and that this is very much important for us.
Eu queria só
I would like to say that this is the moment that we had a chance to not only see other good practices and experiences from around the world. For example, in Brazil, we're now discussing how we can limit the use of cell phones in schools. So Finland already does this, unless it's the teacher that's using the cell phone to teach something. And Spain and other countries have used different models to do the same thing. The same thing with professional schools and technical education. So now more than 60% of students of many countries are in technical schools, and Brazil only has 11% of its students in technical education. So that's exchanging interest on debt. So interest rates will go down on debt as the states choose to implement professional education in their states. So we hope to bring that up to 35% of enrollment of youth in professional education schools. So this is the time where the experiences of the world allow us to implement actions of new policies in Brazil. For example, we'll now get to know a group of actions that will value teachers in basic education in Brazil. How can we recruit more teachers? How can we improve the quality of early education for teachers? And we looked at the experiences of other countries that offer scholarships to students so that they can already start learning how to teach in school. And these are the experiences that have helped President Lula to reduce inequality, assure inclusion in a country the size of Brazil.
Uma pergunta até sobre o desculpa, Mariana Tocarne, da Agência Brasil.
Mariana Tocarno from Agency Brazil. A question about the Fortaleza Declaration. You said that you will share it with the G20 summit. I would like to know from you if it will be presented there, and also you talked about the fact that it will be a proposal for financing and credit. So this wasn't included in the G20 paragraphs on education, but I think it will be displayed in this document. Can you tell us more about the Fortaleza Declaration? Thank you.
Fortaleza Declaration is not a G20 document, it's the outcome document of this conference, but of course G20 ministers are part of it. So somehow the two processes and two multilateral systems are very much interconnected. And as I mentioned, it's a commitment to, on one side, focus on concrete sectors, initiatives that are very much needed to address the learning crisis, the global learning crisis. I can mention some aspects that also Minister Santana already highlighted. The valorization of the teaching profession and having teachers on the front line of change. The need to invest on the digital transformation and to use technology for the best of teachers and learners and not the other way around. The need to put inclusion at the very core of any policies, which means no one left behind, really. And this is about school nutrition, this is about the role of gender equality in education, and all the different priorities that the Fortaleza Declaration clearly mentions and highlights. To that end, of course, we need additional resources. And we need that this political commitment that ministers of education and ministers of finance, who were invited and on this stage just a few minutes ago, were contributing from their perspective to this commitment, translate in a political decision, which is about the budget. As one minister said in the previous panel, the budget is the more political tool that governments have in their hands. And the Fortaleza Declaration is clearly, let's say, mentioning some concrete actions that can be taken at international level to create more fiscal space, more resources for education globally, and especially looking at developing countries that are struggling with debt. They are struggling with let's say, the deficit in their national budget. We have to keep in mind that 97% of budget and financement for education globally comes from domestic financing. So it's important that we can work with the Global South with these important measures as well.
Tarde, na Kimberly, da TV Verdes Mares aqui.
Afternoon, Kimberly from TV Verdes Mares from Fortaleza. My question goes directly to Minister Santana about the National Exam of Ensino Médio, the National Middle School University Access Exam. So that's going to happen this Sunday. What are the measures that are being taken to avoid fraud, to avoid cheating in the test? Are there any issues or measures being taken to protect the test?
Bom, toda preparação para a realização desse exame envolve aí milhares de pessoas em todo o Brasil, não só fiscais, coordenadores.
Not only experts, inspectors, federal police, military police, you know how complex the process is of applying this test. We have companies that are responsible for logistics, and the goal is obviously to assure that the test is fair and there's no type of break in the process. So we hope everything will run well, and we're doing everything. We have increased the amount of students that have signed up to take the test. 5 million now will be taking the test, and more important than that, we have also increased the number of high school students finishing high school that will be able to take the test. There were states where only 30% of the students were enlisting for the test, or 50%. This year, almost all states in Brazil brought from 70 to 100% of their high school students to enroll and enlist for that test. Besides being free and public and accessible, it is your way into university. And we're also going, the special savings account for teenagers completing high school. People who pass the test on Sunday are going to get another installment of that special savings for high school, for vulnerable high school teens. So we will hope to see great results. Minister Chilene Lopes from Rádio Itatiaia, one of the main points that we've been debating in the last few days is connected to something that has been displayed in the newspaper. Folha de São Paulo says the government is discussing a global limit or roof on some expenses. Regarding education, do you know if this may affect, for example, the national minimum wage for teachers, or school transport? Will there be a special program or cuts in school transport in the Northeast? What are the impacts? First of all, I have no information regarding any tax cut, any fiscal measures. I know that Brazil is so privileged to have a Minister of Economy that was an ex-Minister of Education. It's a massive privilege because he brings that awareness about education into the Ministry of Economy and values it. And secondly, I'm certain that our president has conviction that education is a priority of his government. So I'm sure that all of the goals that we have established for, and that the president has been establishing in his third mandate, is responsible. Literacy at the right age, savings for high school teens, all of the government's programs, all of the goals, and will not only be reached but maybe doubled or increased. We're also going to announce another important investment to improve the lives of our teachers by investing in their salaries for basic education teachers in Brazil. So it is a commitment of the federal government. The president has always said that investing in education is not a cost. It's not an expense, it's an investment. So President Lula and this government are committed to education. So are you saying that education is not going to suffer any budget cuts? That's not what I said. What I said was that I don't think that any of the programs that are bearing fruit and the Ministry of Education has outrolled will be affected by any of these budgetary cuts that the federal government is announcing. Anyone else? Hello, good afternoon. Giovanna Alves from Metropolis. You mentioned professional education and technical education and education for technology to avoid school evasion, to keep kids in school. I would like to know if during GEM you discussed this. Have you exchanged any practical good practices, and would you be able to touch on how other countries have dealt with school evasion? I had quite a few meetings, bilateral meetings with ministers, delegations, and we have elaborated and expanded the investment in PEGMEA, which is the special savings account for high school students in public school. For example, Peru also had a big problem with school evasion like Brazil did. Italy also had, as the minister tells us today. So we've been sharing our experience with Brazil. PEGMEA, remember, it was just created this year, so we're only going to know the impacts of that program starting next year when we can actually have indicators that are measurable. But I can tell you two important points about that program. First of all, it goes beyond the program doesn't have a financial objective. It involves the family. So the mom is like, where are you? Are you in school? The dad is, where are you? Because that teenager only gets the fund transfer, the grant, if he's in school. So everyone gets involved, helps pressure kids to stay in school, and also encourages people to take the national high school exam. So we have reports from many secretaries of states telling us about the amount of students that have enrolled and gone back to school this year, and how that has been much higher than last year. Remember that PEGMEA was also included in education for youth and for young people and adults. So we have been able to broaden the participation of students. But we will only be able to measure this starting with the next school survey in the beginning of next year, and also in the presence of students in school this year. And we exchange a lot of experiences, especially good practices on how we can raise capacity for teachers and perfect their continued education. We are very focused on qualifying our teachers for primary education, for early learning. We've looked at Finland, we've looked at Italy, Spain, Singapore. We've gone abroad. I visited Singapore when I was a governor at the time. Changing experiences and good practices is extremely important so we can consolidate global action around the world, especially in the global south.
Thank you. Maybe very briefly, thank you so much. There were few sections dedicated to both technical and vocational training and digital transformation, and also the interplay between these two important education policies. And I would say that the UNESCO strategy for technical and vocational training is very much encouraging to focus on the new skills that young people need, great skills, digital skills. That's something that can really make the difference in the future and make also technical and vocational training more attractive. Now there is a cultural constraint. I think in Brazil you have the same problem that we see in many other countries of the world, that the aspiration of families and young people accordingly is to go to university instead of having training that can make also their job placement and the link with the market closer and more effective. And the many experiences that we heard in the room were very much about these next steps to do on the green and on the digital side.
Uma última pergunta, acho que é...
Oi, ministro. Oi, ministro. Acho que tá. Samantha Klein, da CBN.
So I am from CBN. Clara, I want to ask you about what Edilene asked about these changes in as regards to the budget and distribution of expenditures. One of the proposals that is being discussed about with the economic team, like to change things from health, there's percentages in the constitution, but what would the impact be of this limit if you establish this? the limit to education, talking about the fiscal framework, like 2.5% of growth. What does that mean to increase the resources from Fundeb to 60%, making it flexible for its execution? I have to see. I will be against any change as regards to the limit of financing and education. I know Lula agrees with me. Actually, we don't have to reduce, we don't have to limit, we have to widen investments in education. I will always defend that. I will say just one datum that justifies that. The education ministry has to see it systemically. We are the master and the coordinators of this. We look everything, daycare centers and higher education. We are focusing more on elementary schools. 68 million Brazilians didn't finish elementary school. We're talking about a third of the Brazilian population. So we have a problem with elementary education. Brazil has been investing per capita on high education, just like all of the others of OECD. But when you come to elementary school, it's just 1/3 of the value per capita that the Western or the OECD countries invest. So we are the same as regards to higher education, but elementary we're missing. So we have to see at this management, we have to look at the states, the cities, the municipalities, the mayors, the school directors. We want to see not just about the resources we're talking about good governance. And Ceará is a great example. We're not a rich state, but we have better results than most of the rich states in this country. So Brazil has to take a look at this. They have to see the investments in basic education. A third of the population hasn't concluded it because per capita, as I said, a third from the OECD countries, like visa, school evasion, these things. President Lula is on the right way, on the right pathway. We're going to increase investments. Another data that is important, or other data that is important, or another datum. 2023 to 2024, we increased the budget of the Ministry of Education, 50 billion reais, 25% we increased it. We have the commitment to have public education with quality. 6 federal institutes. We're working with all 27 states or federative units. So I will be against any change or limits to invest in education. So that's the discussion. Like education and health together to limit, I understand. It's changing the sense. I will be totally against that. We don't have to have a limit. Education has to be out of the limit. There shouldn't be a roof limit for that. Thank you, everybody. We're finishing here so that we don't delay everybody. Please don't be angry at me. Thank you, everybody.